The Detroit Pistons will be selecting 5th overall in the 2024 NBA draft. It'll be the 3rd year in a row they've done so. I'll share my thoughts on the NBA lottery as a whole in a little bit here, but I want to pitch to Pistons fans or just Detroit sports fans that are trying to become Pistons fans again what I think they should do with the 5th overall pick. And let me be very clear. They don't have a president of basketball operations yet. The process is still ongoing, and they have to get that figured out very quickly because they're not going to make any significant moves or trades without one. Like, let's be real. But someone is available, and it's being reported across multiple media platforms, and that's Brandon Ingram, small forward from New Orleans, drafted number 2 overall by the Los Angeles Lakers. And you guys know, if you're an NBA fan, you know who Brandon Ingram is. Silky smooth scorer. He is. I think he'd be a great fit with who they have, the current core. I mean, if you have Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Asar Thompson, Brandon Ingram, Jalen Duren, that lineup I can get with. And I think that's the all-star that people are looking for. He's not going to deliver a championship on his own. At the end of the day, the success of the Pistons will be dictated on their core. Cade Cunningham turning into a superstar. Ivy turning into a superstar. Hopefully. Jalen Duren. The same applies for all these guys. That's really what matters. But people are asking for star players, and Brandon Ingram is available. And the Pelicans can't afford to pay everybody. And I think they want to get younger as well. And I think they'd be interested in the 5th overall pick. Even if you have to include a young player for Brandon Ingram, I would absolutely do it. It is the time to go get somebody. It just is. And the Pistons, and not just the Pistons, but small markets in general, not that Detroit is a small market, but they're not good. So they're not attractive for big-time free agents. They're just not going to come here. So you have to either A, trade for somebody, or B, be hopeful that one of the players you've already drafted will blossom into an all-star or superstar, which the Timberwolves were able to do that. And Anthony Edwards is a premier all-NBA, potentially future MVP candidate. That dude is legit. And look what it's done for the Timberwolves. Minnesota, who for a while was a laughingstock in the NBA. The Pistons can get out of this. Their franchise holds historical weight. They just have to start winning games. And with that, you got to add talent. And you got to build around your franchise player or players. If you look at Duren and company as those as well, I would say Cade Cunningham is the true franchise player. And I'll show you guys the exact tweet here so I can get it pulled up and you guys can look at it. But basically, this is coming out, like I said, from a couple of different platforms that the New Orleans Pelicans, and this, I'll get the tweet up for you. They're shopping Brandon Ingram. And I think Brandon Ingram, like I said, is a perfect fit. He is only, I believe, 26 years old. Yes, he's 26 years old. He fits the timeline, 6'8", 7'3" wingspan. He averaged 20 points last year for the Pelicans. And even prior, I mean, even as far as last year, the year prior, played in 45 games, but gave him 25 points a game. So I'm all for Brandon Ingram. The Pistons just have to go trade for somebody, man. You're at that point. Like, I don't know what the 5th overall pick does for you. I'm a huge fan of Ron Holland, former 5-star recruit, played in the G League, played for the G League Ignite this year. He's arguably one of the best defenders in the class, perimeter defenders. And he's a wing. But here's the thing, the shot is what concerns me. And they need shooting. I think Brandon Ingram provides that. I mean, you look at him as a shooter. He's a career 36.2% three-point shooter with 3 to 5 attempts, especially later in his career. Last 2 seasons, he's taken close to 4 attempts a game. And even the 2 seasons prior to that, he was taking 4 attempts in 2021, 2022, 6 attempts in 2020, 2021. So that's a guy that could play alongside Cade Cunningham. Absolutely. And that's what they have to do, man. And we'll see what Troy Weaver's future looks like. That's probably the biggest question mark. And I don't know if he's earned the right to even stay and make the selection. I would hope you bring somebody else from the outside. I would hope that whoever takes over the president of basketball operations is not somebody within the organization. And I'll say that. I mean, look at it from a You're owning a business. Look at it from this perspective. And the business entirely is declining. To me, if I'm owner of that said business, internally, hey, nothing's working. No matter what we do, insanity is doing the same thing, expecting a different result. I'm bringing in someone else outside in my organization, my company, that has been a part of success to some level of degree. That knows, hey, this is what you guys are doing. It's not working. This is what I've seen that works. That's what I would prefer the most. And I'm curious where you guys are at with it. Step one needs to be you hire the right president of basketball operations. Step two, you pick up the phone and you call New Orleans and you say, listen, what is it going to take to get Brandon Ingram off your hands? That 5th overall pick, there's going to be some wings available. I think New Orleans would be interested in. They can get on a rookie contract and bring him right in. And they can still afford to keep the guys around Zion that they're going to have to afford to be able to retain. I think it works for both sides. Now, there will be other suitors for Brandon Ingram, so it's going to get competitive. So if you have to trade another part of this young core, do it. You just do it, because that's where you're at right now. And this fan base did not deserve what happened today, but I could argue the organization did. It just did. And I know people are frustrated with the NBA lottery as a whole. To be honest, guys, I don't hate the side that's like, hey, go to the NFL lottery. Or, excuse me, go to the NFL draft the way they do it. Worst team gets number one pick, so on and so forth. But the NBA as a whole is trying to encourage trying to win games. They don't want to reward losing. And to be honest with you, I don't think the Pistons should be rewarded for sucking. I just don't think so. It'd be cool if they had the number one pick. But hey, you're not going to be rewarded for intentionally losing. Not that the Pistons were doing that, but for any team that would intentionally lose. I just don't think that's the case. A play-in team got the number one overall pick. So I think when you look at it like that, it's different, right? They're rewarding teams that are trying to win. And teams that are stuck, figure it out. And I don't think the draft is always the solution. I think for certain players, like if you land a Victor Wembanyama, yeah, it can change your franchise around. But the Pistons, they're not the number one draft pick, the number one pick away from being successful. There's a lot more work that needs to be done, man. So it's not just, hey, land the number one overall pick, take Alex Sarr, and here we come. Like, no. So I don't think them landing the 5th pick drastically changes the future. Like, they still got to fix what's going on internally. Who's leading this franchise from a president of basketball operations perspective? Who's making decisions? Is Troy Weaver going to stay here? That's what needs to be figured out. It's just crazy. The Hawks. I mean, I'll go through the statistics here, or at least the percentages. The Hawks had a 3, and I'll pull this up so you guys can look at it. Let's see here. This is on Tankathon. I mean, just look at this. The Hawks had a 3% chance of landing the number one overall pick. And they landed it. Then you have the Houston Rockets, who had a 1.9% chance to land the 3rd overall pick. And they landed it. Washington didn't move. They had a 13.4% chance. They stayed put. The Pistons had a 47.9% chance to land the 5th pick, but a 52.1% chance to land a top 4 pick. And they still fell to 5. So, yeah, does it suck? Yes, it does. But they gotta figure this out, and it's not going to be with drafting number one overall. I'll tell you that. Like, go get Brandon Ingram. And if it's not Brandon Ingram, go get a all NBA, potentially, preferably, but at the very least, all-star player. Add talent, man. Because you're not going to get it through free agency. I don't care how much money you have to spend. You're not going to get somebody in free agency on a max. What are you going to get? Paul George? What's he going to do? He'll improve this roster, yeah. But he's not coming to Detroit. Not right now. Klay Thompson, what is he going to do? He's not coming to Detroit. Even if he did, I don't think he solves, shooting, certainly. But at this point in his career, what does he do for you? And I love Clay. But Brandon Ingram, I think, fits the timeline. It just makes a lot of sense. And with Cade Cunningham, his contract coming up, you see guys in his class signing extensions. You got to sell something to him. You have to sell promise to him. And this is the way you do it. Go and be aggressive. Go acquire talent. And I think Brandon Ingram is that player. What do you guys think? Am I crazy for it? Pelicans want to trade him? I think the Pistons should be the first ones to call once they get their president of basketball operations. And they need to move that process quickly because early bird gets the worm. That's just how these things work. But please comment down below. How frustrated are you? What do you think about the NBA lottery? I'll talk more about it on the show tomorrow. I'm mixed. I have mixed opinions on it. Part of me doesn't mind it. Part of me, probably that inner Pistons fan in me, wants it like the NFL. But it's what happens when teams intentionally tank. Like, you got to find a way to stop it. And this is their way to do it. Please subscribe if you haven't already. We're almost at 6.7 thousand. We're trying to get to 7,000, then eventually 10,000. Thanks to you guys, we're climbing and we're continuing to grow. I wanted to put out this reaction video and kind of get a feel for Pistons fans and where you guys are at with it. And what's the next steps for the Pistons moving forward, in your opinion? Is it Brandon Ingram, or is it keeping the pick and selecting a player? And if so, who is it? Until next time, I'll catch you guys.